Welcome to the Impact Maker's Journey from Passion to Profits, the podcast showcasing heart-centered coaches, experts, and energy healers who are on a mission to change lives and create meaningful success doing what they love. I'm your host, Judy Wong, business success coach and founder of Impact Maker Coaching. And I've got to be honest, the path from passion to profits is rarely easy, but it's always filled with growth, clarity, and surprising rewards. Now, each week I sit down with inspiring impact makers who have turned their knowledge and wisdom into thriving businesses that are making a meaningful difference for others. I will explore their personal and professional journeys, how they found their calling, and how they continue to stay aligned with their passion along the way. So if you're here to expand your vision about what's possible for yourself, you're in the right place. So join me as we discover the positive ripple effects created by today's guest. All right, welcome everyone. I have as my guest today, Judy Wong. Now, Judy is an Energy Accelerator Transformation Coach, working mainly with adults who are just like her. And as in using her words, well, the hell over 60. So welcome, Judy. I am so excited to have you as my guest today.
Oh God, I am so happy to be here, Wendy. You know how much I love you. This is so much fun. And yeah, I am way the hell over 60. Everybody's like, "Are you sure?" I'm like, "Yeah, last I looked, I'm pushing 70."
Carry around your birth certificate, right? Yeah,
Yeah,
see?
I am.
Well, you've definitely tapped into something that is working extremely well for yourself. So I can't wait to hear more about that and about your journey. And really, every heart-centered coach and energy healer goes on a journey, in my opinion. It's a journey that involves business development as well as personal development, with the vision or mission of truly making that meaningful difference for others. And my opinion is that that difference is ultimately a ripple effect that makes a positive impact on our entire world, which is why I love your backdrop, because it's the universe, right? And beyond. So it's so appropriate. But
We
the
are
truth is,
star stuff.
we are, yeah. That's what I've been told. So yeah, we're all part of all the same elements. So, but the journey from passion and inspiration to profits is not always easy. It's a journey, right? And it's not the same for everyone. So I'm excited to discover more about you, your journey, and this important work you're doing.
Oh.
So, curiously, to put you on the spot here right away, why and when did you become a professional coach?
Um, I guess, I've been doing it a long time.
Well, the hell over 60. Well, you know that, right?
Um,
that
I
that's
I
already out of the
actually
closet.
I actually got to being a more of a full-time life coach because I am a Mind Valley certified life coach and hypnotherapist and a
Mm.
number of other things.
Hmm.
But um before I was doing this full time, God knows some people who know me know I've had more careers in my lifetime than most people have in their families, quite honestly. My
Most people
husband is
and
still
their
trying to figure
families.
out what the hell I've done. but but
Oh.
at the time I was in my late 50s and I was going through a divorce from a long-term toxic marriage. And I had to put three boys through college because I had them late in life so I could keep lying about how old I was. But here I was looking at having to put them through college, put myself back into school to finish the degrees that my hateful mother derailed when I was very
Mm,
young.
mm.
Um, and I had zero help from anybody. None. Zip. Not
But
even from their dad.
the
I did not.
reality was your reality of having to get this,
Yeah,
make things happen.
yeah. I didn't have a full time job. I didn't have any money, and I didn't want to admit to my sons the only thing I had going for us was a roof over our heads.
Mm,
And honestly, I wanted to walk away from life.
mm,
But I realized if I did that, I would be giving up on the one promise I gave my boys when they were born, which was to always be here for them
mm.
because I wasn't lucky enough to have a mother like that. So I had to figure out a way to save my own bloody ass life.
Mm.
And oh, I did. Oh my God. Just like everybody else in the planet. I did every business in the box. I did every wellness program you can imagine, and nothing was working. And one day I just sat down and cried.
Mm.
And I allowed everything just to implode. And then I remembered something that was said to me one time, a long, long time ago, during my first marriage, which left me homeless,
Mm.
jobless, and $20,000 in somebody else's debt.
Oof.
And
Jeez.
I was told, look, things are going to come and go. Things are going to come and go, but no one could ever take away you. And those words came back to me that day. And for the first time in a very long time, since I was a little girl, I saw me again.
Mm.
And I knew she wasn't gone. She was still there.
Right.
And it was like bloody miracle. Um, I integrated her back into me, and I got healthier. I got
Wow.
money started flowing. I didn't even know where it was coming from. I mean, it was like, oh my
Wow.
God. I put the three boys through college. I put myself back into college. I finished my 2 degrees in my late 50s. Took me 40 something years to do, but hell, I did it,
You
right?
did it. Right. Right. In amongst all of this that was going on.
Yeah. And
Wow.
I did this. And then, and then I was told, oh, well, you're too old to teach full time, even though I was teaching without a degree for many years. I was like,
What? Oh my God.
I eventually, when all of the goodness started kicking in and I tapped back into me and brought myself back to life, and yes, let my fountain of life start flowing again. It was really weird, but these places that wouldn't even give me an interview suddenly were offering me jobs.
Wow.
So yeah, I went back to work as a professor, as a full-time professor.
So suddenly the
Um,
age wasn't a problem. Everything
no,
just like,
yeah, it was like really bizarre. And and it was really funny because of that horrible divorce. It's I I was actively trying to stay as single as humanly possible for the rest of my life. And I ran into somebody who actually was my twin flame, my
mm,
soulmate.
mm.
And I got married again at 60.
Hmm.
And I
Wow.
realized that, when we turned 60 years ago, that everybody told us we weren't allowed to make money anymore. We were supposed to be working on our end of life plans. We were supposed to be falling apart at the seams,
Get your things in order, get your estate plan, get everything,
right?
get your graveyard plot,
It, it was like absolutely insane. And I was like, wait a minute, my life just began at 60.
Right.
What are you talking about? And
Mm.
I was teaching at the university at the time. And I just started seeing some of my peers because the truth is, my generation, we have the largest amount of teachers of any generation
Hmm.
because we were taught it was a good thing. And especially women were taught it was a thing
Okay.
to do. So I was watching. So, and at the time, I had become an international English educator and international educational speaker.
International.
Yes. And I was
Wow.
traveling all over the world. And
And a speaker, you said, educator
yeah,
and speaker.
yeah,
International. Wow,
yeah.
Judy.
And it was wild because all of a sudden, all my colleagues were starting to be put out to pasture en masse. And they were having like total meltdown.
Mm,
And then they came to me, they're like, Jude, what's going on? You got younger in the last 10 years and we got older. And I went, it ain't about Fountain of Youth's kids. And I'm like, your life ain't over yet just because they took you out of the university or
Mm-hmm.
whatever. There's
Mm-hmm.
so much more to your life. I mean, when we think about it, we define ourselves by what, the last 20 years of our life, last 30 years. But if you're 70, what happened to the other 50?
That's a small little
Exactly.
portion of the bigger
Exactly.
picture.
Exactly. And at one time I was a math teacher too. So I was like, that's it. What happened to the other ones? And so often we forget that. And when I had to save my own life, that's one of the things I learned is all the years that I forgot about
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
that were me, that I had
Mm-hmm.
so much more than this little teeny weeny point in my life. But I
Right.
was so much bigger, but I had nobody there to help me about it.
Mm-hmm.
So I started
Right.
helping my colleagues one on one for a long time. And then COVID hit.
Mm-hmm.
And my husband, who's in his 70s, and he's a public service doctor. So God knows we didn't lock ourselves up in our house.
Right. Right.
We gave big hugs to more COVID positive people than you could imagine.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm gonna break a myth, this
Okay.
myth about aging. You don't get sicker the older you get.
Okay.
I have literally not been sick, not even with a cold in the last 10 years, over 10
Wow.
years.
Wow.
And
That's
until I was in my late
awesome.
50s, I was so sickly. I spent more days of the year being chronically, majorly ill than I was healthy. How
Wow.
wild is that, right?
That is, yeah, that is amazing.
So here COVID hit, and I saw all these other friends and colleagues who were like me and my husband, vital, alive, productive, and they locked themselves in a
Yeah.
room
Yeah.
because they bought
Total
the
fear.
stupid words. They
Yeah.
bought the words that I'm old, and if I step out, I will die.
Acceptable, frail, exposed
And
to, yeah, all of
what killed me was when they finally opened the doors to come out. And this is why I became a full-time coach. When they opened the doors to come out, they came out in wheelchairs, walkers, or
it.
dead. I have not experienced that much loss since the AIDS crisis.
Mm.
And it broke my heart.
Wow.
And that's when my husband looked at me, the doctor, and said, honey, maybe it's time you need to step it up and
Mm.
do more because I don't want to see our generation go.
Mm-hmm.
There's no reason for us to be going.
Yeah.
Human life is to 100 or more right now. And the only thing keeping us from that is ourselves.
Well,
Literally,
that's profound.
ourselves. You know, I mean, I'm going to break the myth. You don't get sicker the older you get. My husband's in his 70s. His biggest complaint to me is that he only ran around because he had too many patients. He only ran around 10 miles today. I'm like, obviously, you are
10
so
miles.
disabled and decrepit. It's
Right,
pathetic,
right. Just
right?
shuffling along. No, 10
Yes,
miles
yes.
only.
Only 10 miles.
Only the operative word. No. Well, you're a living, breathing truth of the fact that myth is just simply,
Yeah,
you know,
right.
flopped,
We don't
flopped
have to be
by
we don't have to
somebody
be
else.
inflexible. We don't have to be, sickly. I mean,
Mm.
honestly, if you look at my medical history and my past up until my 50s, I should either be in traction, dead, or the bionicle woman. And I'm none of the above.
None of it, huh? None of it. None of it.
But the
So,
wild thing is when you do that, it's like, whoa, things just are happening. And yeah, it just started happening. And I was like, well, they said it was supposed that I was here on this planet. Somebody, a shaman, told me when I was in my 30s that I
mm,
wasn't supposed to be leaving the world because back then I was like the dark soul of the night. And they were like, you're not allowed to leave the world because you are here for a reason. You're here to help others.
mm,
And
wow.
I'm like, well, how would I be
That
helping
was in
others?
your 30s. That was
Yes.
prior to this whole thing in your
And I
50s.
thought they were crazy. And they said, no, 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 no. It's your life. I said, what about my life? Really? And they're like, no, you
You have a bigger purpose and mission, and you
you
understand right now.
so just get over it and get on with it.
So post COVID, and you saw this whole shift when people were okay. the pandemic is over, life resumes, quote unquote, and everybody was, really in a lower state of vitality. And so your husband said, "You've got to do this." So what did you do then, besides the obviousness of your own life experience and walking your talk? Did you do anything specific to gain then that level of expertise and authority?
Yeah, actually, I did. I finally said, well, I guess it's time that I had been hanging out with Vision and a whole bunch of other people like Christy Marie Sheldon, Bob Proctor, and you name it. I've been with them.
Okay, lots
Jack,
of
Jack
lots of
Canfield,
those.
all of them for
Mm,
years and years and years since when I was trying to save my own bloody life.
mm,
But I finally realized, no, it's time to step it up, time to really become part of these communities. And I became a full-time Mind Valley person. And I started doing a lot of stuff for them and holding groups and talking. And I became one of their certified life coaches and
mm.
certified hypnotherapists. Now
Okay.
I'm also a certified hollow body coach. But I started actually really taking it seriously.
Yeah.
And I decided to start making some programs basically to help others in a bigger way do
Yeah.
exactly what I just did to save my own stinking life,
Great.
and 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 help them because I didn't want to see any more people hurting. So
Mm,
yeah, I created a program off the cuff. I said, when my husband said, go out and do something bigger, I said, all right, I'll put together a little group program for people because I was already talking on stages and pivoting my pedagogical talks, which is about education, into pedagogical wellness talks. So I
right.
was already teaching teachers and
Sure.
educators how to be better human beings and be healthier and stronger.
Right.
So when they reached out to me, some of my old colleagues, for help, I said this, and I created a program.
Mm,
It's a 6-week program. And one of my clients who came to me, she was an old friend in her 70s. And this woman was diagnosed as clinically depressed
okay.
for
Yeah.
3 years.
That's pretty typical, right? That's
Seriously,
that's a,
clinically
a, a common
depressed. Right.
diagnosis, clinically
She was
depressed.
she was put out to pasture as an educator. And
Mm.
us
How
educators
old
as
was she?
teachers, she was in her 70s.
Okay.
And she was put out to pasture finally. And she was having struggle with her relationships with her children, her grandchildren, her husband. She was in so much physical pain that literally sitting in a Zoom room with me, she had trouble sitting up. She
Mm,
was in that much pain.
mm,
Um, she had a 3-story house. She couldn't walk up and down the stairs without serious assistance from her husband, practically carrying her up and down.
right.
So we started doing work, and that's what I'm really good at, um, is healing. I am a holistic healer. So we did a lot of healing work from the inside out, which is what I did for
Through
me.
Zoom. Through
I,
I just want to
through
make sure
Zoom,
I'm understanding that, right? You weren't
through Zoom.
in the room with her. This was
No.
through Zoom, like you and I are talking right now.
Yep.
And
Yep.
you're able to
Tap in,
connect, tap
tap
into
into
their
their energy, tap
energy.
into their core. I can see things in people that they can't see in themselves.
Hmm.
And we did some serious healing work. And in my program, I also bring in other healers, depending on how much healing work the cohort needs. And so there was a couple other healers, and breath work, and maybe sound healers. And we did some really intense healing for the first week to 2 weeks, depending on how long they needed. Here's the wild thing. And I mean, I knew when I worked one on one and physically in front of people, like in person, that this works,
Yeah, right.
that the healing is exponential, that I've gotten to places that they've gone to therapists and psychiatrists and everything else on the planet, and they can't seem to get better.
Trying
But
this
I
and
sit
that.
down
And
with them and I can't, like I tell them, look, it's 70 years. I can't do it overnight. But within a few sessions, a week, 2 weeks, what gets moved in just 3 days is
Wow.
more than their 10, 20 years of therapy.
Therapy
And
and no doubt meds,
right, meds,
a
drugs, and
whole
everything else
list.
the doctor wants. This woman was seeing a medical doctor, and I love medical doctors. My husband's one, but I mean, she was seeing a medical doctor who was talking to her about surgery because she had so much pain in her back and everything that she was really in a bad way. And after about a week and a half, she showed up at our group session. She's laughing and she says, "You know what?" I said, "What?" She's
A week and a
my
half. She's showed
my
up. She's laughing. She
yeah,
went from barely sitting in the chair comfortably. Okay, I
like
just
this,
want to like pause this
like
and
this
take
was
this
she
in.
walked in like this,
She walked in and she was like
yeah.
giggling.
And she looks at me. She says, "You're gonna love this." I said, "What?" She goes, "I think a therapist or psychiatrist, whatever the heck he was, you know." And I believe in these people. You know,
Yeah, sure.
they have their places. And she says, he wants to know what's going on. I said, "What do you mean? What's going on?" She says, he said for the first time in 3 years. In 3 years, she was clinically depressed for 3 years,
Yeah.
seeing a therapist every bloody week, whatever. She said he wanted to know why in 3 years, for the first time, I came in with a smile on my face and I didn't have one bad thing to say.
Wow.
She says, I told him I've been doing some work with this friend of mine who's, doing this stuff. And
Doing
and
this stuff.
yeah,
I
this
just love
stuff.
that.
This
Doing this
stuff.
stuff. You know,
Right. And it was really kind of funny. And he was like,
this
well, whatever you're
stuff.
doing,
Okay.
he's like, well, whatever you're doing, keep doing it.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
then a few days later, she comes in and she says to me, "Oh my God." I said, "What?" She goes, "I'm walking." I said, "You're walking?" She goes, "Yeah." And I'm like, "That's great." I truly believed her doctor, whatever the treatment he was doing, was finally working.
Mm, mm,
So I was
mm.
like, I'm so happy, whatever he's been doing. Cause look, I always tell people, I'm not a doctor. I'm not a medical practitioner. What I am is called an alternate complementary medical practitioner, meaning what I do, if you're doing anything serious, medical, it will help it. It will help move the needle forward and make it
Mhm.
work better and
So,
faster.
and instead of something being chronic, it's temporary.
Right.
Of course, there are always limitations. And
Right.
but this
But,
woman, 70
if you're
years
going
old,
through, if you're
clinically
going through,
depressed.
right, if you're going through chemo or something, I can help make it a little less, caustic. So it was wild. She goes, "I'm walking." I said, "Really great." I said, "Oh, so whatever the doctor's been doing." I said, "Did you do the surgery?" She goes, "No." I said, "Okay." I said, and so whatever he's been having you do is finally kicking in,
It's finally
whatever
working. Yeah.
medicine, whatever he's been having you. She goes,
Hmm.
he's not doing anything different. And I went, "Okay. So what did the doctor say?" She went, "He doesn't know what the hell is going on, but he said, whatever the hell I'm doing, keep doing it."
Oh my gosh. It is.
Really?
And I'm
She goes,
sure, Judy, that's probably just one in 100 stories
I
like
was
that.
like, you're
If we
kidding me,
had
really?
4 hours, I have a feeling it would be story after story after
It was
story.
wild. And I was like, really, really, really? You're walking? She goes, "Yeah, I'm walking. I'm walking up and down the stairs. I'm walking around the neighborhood." She goes, "And I don't even need anything, not a walker or anything." I said,
Jeez,
"Really?"
that is
And then she says, I said, "You've got nothing?" She goes, "Well, I have this fold up cane I keep in my backpack just in case."
just in case. Just in case I decide to hike up, some trail or something. Oh my gosh, that is
Here's the even wilder thing. Fast forward. This was 4 years ago,
okay.
a little over 4 years
Oh,
ago.
so now she's in her mid 70s.
Right.
If we're talking about the same person, okay. I'm on
What
the
it
edge of my
turned
seat
out,
here, Judy.
what it turned out during the course of the program, we learned that she always liked doing singing and theater and other things. And she was told when she was young it was a stupid idea. But so she started doing it. By the time she ended the program, she was teaching again on her terms using theater and music and all kinds of things.
Wow.
Now,
A
fast
complete
forward,
new lease on life.
a new
Okay.
human being, right?
Right.
Fast forward 4 years later, she
Okay.
calls me up. And this was like, I don't know, maybe 3, 4 months ago now. She called me up. She says, "Hey, I'm doing this show," because she's been writing plays, having them produced, and doing shows, right?
Wow.
So
Yeah.
she calls me up. She says, "I'm doing this show. Would you come?" I said, "Of course. If I'm free, let me check my calendar. Yeah, I'm free. My husband and I will come see your show." I go there. There is this person who literally runs across the room at me. I almost didn't know who the hell it was because she looked 10 years younger. She comes running across the room, throws her arms around me, and goes, "I am so happy you came." I said, "I'm always here for anybody. I love you people, and I'm here for anybody." And she said, "I'm so happy." And she throws her arms around me. She gives me a big hug. And I go, "Oh my God." When I realized who it was, I was like,
Yeah.
"You look great." I said, "How are you feeling?" She goes, "Great." And I go, and you're doing better physically healthy. She goes, "Yeah." I said, "And you don't need anything? Did you do the surgery?" She goes, "No." And I said, and you don't need anything?" She goes, "Well, I keep that folded up cane in my bag still just in case."
Oh my gosh, Judy, that is just, I mean, I have like chills just living that moment of seeing this woman running from where
Oh
she's,
my God.
and the transformation is just unbelievable,
Beautiful. Her
but yet
son,
believable. All
her
right.
son, who she wasn't talking to back then, he was at the theater cheering his mother on. Her husband was there. It was, I was like, "Oh my God, I am
Yeah.
so happy
I
for."
would be like crying tears of joy. Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
like, I am so, so proud of her. So
Oh my
happy for
God.
her
That
finding
is that is
her
a
inner
beautiful,
light again.
beautiful story
Yeah.
and life that she now has a whole new lease on a life, not
Yeah.
end, not the ending in demise and misery, but a whole new birth of a life.
She's a whole new human being. And
So,
honestly, the medical profession and everybody had already written her off.
right, right. Yeah, no, that's powerful. So people that are really looking to regain that sense of vitality, vibrance, and heal through and have a new lease on life, it sounds like are the people that hire you, engage in you, and
Yeah.
to have that level of complementary, right? Complementary support that what would you describe it as? I mean, it is this clearing? Is this alignment? What is this? How would you describe it?
You know what I call it? I tell them, "We're going to find your true desire."
Hmm. Hmm.
Your true
Okay.
desire. Um, Here's the wild thing. We make all kinds of goals. And I mean, look, I've had more businesses in my lifetime than some people seriously in their families. Um, I've done the 6 figures, 7 figures, I've been so dirt poor. I've been homeless, as I told you. But
Mhm.
um and I built a business yet back then with not two nickels to rub together.
Mhm.
And we can do that. We can do that. But the thing is we've been told our whole life that we got ages and stages to live through,
Mhm.
or chapters in our life, which makes me a little nuts. And I'm a writer. You would think I like chapters. I am a published writer and a published poet. But um
International speaker, published author, published poet. Okay, we're just continuing to discover
but
the breadth and
but
depth of your phenomenal expertise and
but the thing is, when you think about that, if you put your life in a lens of an age or a stage, think about that. You're setting yourself up to fail or succeed because there's a beginning and an ending, right? And the
Mhm.
beginning's going to be good or bad, and the ending's going to be good or bad. But what if life didn't have a beginning or ending? It doesn't really. Our corporal bodies, yes, at some point in time will expire, but you have no idea when that's going to be. It could have been when you were 15 years old and walked out in front of a bus,
Yep.
right?
Mm.
You don't know that. So why the heck are you living your life for your death?
Mhm.
Live it
Well,
for your
it's
life.
out
What a
there. It's that
what a
opinion.
bizarre concept to live your life for your life.
Yeah.
And that was what I learned 14 years ago, that I needed to live my life for my life and not my death. I
Mm-hmm.
spent my whole life living it for my death. But living it for my life was a hell of a lot more fun. And then when I looked back on all my many careers, right? All the careers that my husband's making a joke. He says, one of these days, I want to be there when you meet somebody and they tell you what they do and you don't go, oh, I remember when I did that. Because yes, I was in business. I was a headhunter. Yeah. Anyway, so it was really funny. So when I realized that we don't have to put an ending or a beginning, just living. And so often we put up these goals. I gotta make $1 million. I gotta do this. I gotta do that.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is, then we get there and it's like, well, it didn't turn out the way I wanted it. And when I look back on my careers, I made a shitload of money in a lot of them. I made really good money in some of them. But the ones that I made a shitload of money in, I was having a shitload of fun. And when I thought about it, I was like, wait a minute. Look at all the billionaires in the world, the trillionaires,
Mm-hmm.
the real ones that actually have money, not ones that say they have the money and don't really have money, like
Right.
some people that we know. But the thing is, if you look back on their career and their life, they didn't do it for the money. They didn't do it to work hard. And like we were taught, work hard so you could make a
Mm-hmm.
lot of money.
Right. Yep.
The truth is, they were having a shitload of fun doing whatever the hell came into their crazy head and have fun doing it. Right? Think
Hmm.
about that. Really think about that.
Right.
They were having fun. And
Fun.
I realized that every one of the companies that I ever built, every one of the businesses that I've ever done that made exponentially crazy ass money, I was having a shitload of fun.
The key magic, fun, having
The
fun.
key, the
Yeah.
key, which I realized,
So is that what you feel is the key component that,
yeah,
to
the,
creating
the key is
whatever?
tapping into the inside. Remember, I said I tap into your inside
Yep.
and
Find
I
the
could
truth of what.
see the truth of you, the
Yeah.
core. See, the thing is, we all came into this world with this beautiful light. We call it a soul, a spirit, whatever. We call it a lot of things. And we
Hmm.
all came into this world with it. And we know we all did because when we did, the world was perfect. The world was beautiful. The world was exponentially outrageous. Everything and anything was possible. I mean, heck, I wanted to be an astronaut and we hadn't even figured out how to get to the moon yet. And God knows us women, we're not even allowed to go to woodworking classes. We were allowed to only take classes in home ec. So we knew how to make a household budget,
Cooking, sewing,
cooking, and sewing.
typing,
Yes. And that
typing,
was it. And eventually typing, which I can't
eventually.
do any of those things. I'm really terrible at them. But we know it's there.
Hmm.
And that is the core. That is the person inside of each of us that actually knows
Mm.
the truth of what we really, really wanted. And we buried it alive over time because the world told us it was a dumb idea. They told us, don't think about that. Or they told us, shut up and don't talk.
Right. Don't get your hopes up.
Right. We buried it.
Yep.
We buried it. So, what I did for that woman and I do for people, I unbury it.
Mm.
I crack open the cocoon. I let it back out. Because
Mm.
here's the wild thing when you let it back out, whatever businesses or ideas that pop in are now in alignment with what that core, that light, that spirit wanted in the first place.
Mm.
And then what I found for me too was it was like magic. It was like I didn't have to think too hard about which way to go next because it was like, you know which way, just
Just
do it.
that clarity, that sense of inner compass, right? A
Right,
guidance. It just
right,
the alignment
right.
allows.
Which is like, if you seen like, when I give out to people, it has my poem in it, which begins with listen to the whispers of your soul.
Mm. I love
Because
that.
Your soul has all the answers. We're so busy trying to get it from everybody else that we forgot it's inside of us. And the
Mhm.
magic that I do for people now is I help them find that.
Hmm.
I
Yeah.
help them see that. I help them learn where that is.
What a gift.
And they're always shocked. They are always shocked. Like, oh my God, I never knew that was there.
Talk about feeling empowered. That is like the maximum definition of that, knowing that
Right.
that clarity is within. I love
And
the
the wild
analogy
thing
of
is
the butterfly.
when you start reintegrating that again with you, the right people start showing up, the right places start appearing, the
Yeah.
right opportunities start. Like I said, I was in a place where I couldn't even get a job slinging hamburgers, right?
Shoot.
And no one would give me an interview. I had younger colleagues who had no educational experience getting interviews for these
Interviews,
jobs,
right?
and
Because
I
all
couldn't
you
get the
want.
interview.
Right.
But when I integrated and came back to me and said, okay, I get what you want now.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
show me which way we should go. And it did. I mean, like I would have this urge to show up in a place and boom, wouldn't you know it? The right people were there that moved the needle along. You know, I don't worry about money anymore. It's a very weird thing. My husband thinks I'm nuts because, because every time he goes, well, maybe money might be. I'm like, really? Don't worry about it. And he goes, well, I said, it'll show up. And he goes, you say that all the time. I said, yes, I do. And he goes, I said, have I ever been wrong? He goes, actually, no.
There you go. So just
So just
stop.
roll with it.
Yeah, it's not a big deal. It's
I mean, seriously, it's just, I mean, there was a time I needed 10,000. I needed $10,000 by the end of the week. And I knew I was going to make money eventually down the road, but it's like, I was looking, I wanted to do something that I needed $10,000 by Friday. I had no idea where to get it. Literally had no idea where I was going to get it. And on Thursday, somebody handed me $10,000 cash.
what?
And it wasn't from a job. It wasn't from a job. It really wasn't. It
Gosh.
wasn't from a gig or a client.
Right.
It was, believe it or not, there were these two cemetery plots I had been trying to get rid of for years, and nobody, the cemetery wouldn't buy it back. And the guy, I even asked him again at the beginning. He's like, well, I can get at least 4,000 for that, and that'll get me
Right.
closer to the 10,000. And I asked the guy, and he says, no, we're not buying it back. And it's like, and then during the course of the week, it was really wild. He called me.
Thursday.
He said somebody came in. How strange. This young couple came in and they wanted to be buried near their family. And and I said, well, where's your family? And he took me to the cemetery and he showed me. And then he says, there's some empty space right here. Do you think we can maybe get this empty space?
Oh my gosh.
It was my two plots.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
And then he was like, do you mind? Do you mind? Maybe I can get you like maybe 46,000. I said, that's fine. Whatever. It's fine. It's just for me, it was just getting closer to the 10, right? Then he
Right.
came back and he says, they want to give you cash. Do you mind if you get cash?
Do I
No,
mind? No?
no,
It's
I'll argue
perfect.
with it. No, no,
Actually, perfect.
I could live with some cash, right? And then it was funny. He goes, okay, I'll set up the meeting for tomorrow. We'll get together tomorrow on Thursday. Can you come by at noon and stuff? I said, yeah, sure. So he calls me back. He says, okay, it's all set up. We're ready to go. Come by it on Thursday. I was really scared about catching that much money in a cemetery. So I made my husband come with me. I was like, do me a favor, just stand with me because it's a lot of cash to be walking around with. So, so when he said, I set up the appointment and everything, he says, oh, by the way, I hope you don't mind. I said, what? He goes, I told them they need to give you $10,000 cash.
Just out of the blue. Just perfect. Perfect alignment. I need, and here it comes. Perfectly. Perfect. Wow. Wow. That
How
is,
crazy is that? That's
I
really
have a,
crazy
I
stuff.
have a feeling you have just a complete ongoing lineup of stories of these kinds of shifts that
Yeah.
now
I,
are happening that happen as a result of this finding and tapping into the truth that is within.
I
So,
recently had a client and she had a weight issue, but she also had a lot of medical issues, right? And when she tapped into her happy place, I call it my happy place. My kids used to think I was crazy. I said, "What's your happy place?" What do you just tap into your happy place? And she tapped into her happy place. And all she was working on was tapping into her happy place to make herself feel better and start functioning better on a mental side. Her weight started disappearing.
hmm,
She wasn't dieting.
hmm,
She
hmm.
wasn't trying to diet. She was, and
But
and the truth is, when I did it myself and I tapped into my light and my place and my core, and I integrated this little bit of weight that I had from all those pregnancies. I had three sons. Suddenly, finally disappeared,
hmm, hmm.
and I wasn't dieting.
Just the universe, the energy, the co-creative, bringing everything into alignment, and all
Yeah.
things seem to, all ships rise, as they say. That's a really bad analogy, but everything improves and
But and the
becomes.
core thing is that the wonderful thing is that when you get to that place and your light lights up, I love it. It's my kind of high. I
Mm,
love it when I see somebody break their cocoon and their light explode out. It is the most gorgeous thing you can imagine.
yeah,
And
I
and I
bet.
remember when that happened for me, but because I was not a youngster in somebody's mind, even though I think I'm still young, um, nobody wanted to help me for the next step.
Mm,
So I had all these great ideas of things I wanted to do.
hmm.
I had a great life list working, not a bucket list. You're not working at dying, you're working at living.
Not
So
checking it off before you kick the bucket.
I
Not that.
no, no, no. Let's make life list. What a concept. So I had this huge life list I came up with, but everybody kept saying, well, you're getting kind of old. Maybe you should think of something else. Do something slower. But I didn't want to do anything slower. I wanted to do what I wanted to do.
Right.
So that's why I'm doing what I'm doing is because I realized, remember I said I had more careers in my lifetime than most people in their families, and I'm
Hmm.
not joking.
Hmm.
Um, I know how to do a lot of things.
Yeah.
And even though I might not want to teach it to everybody, I know the right people to teach. I know the right steps you need to make it happen. You know, I know how to make, I know how to pull it out of you. I know how to help you do whatever you need to do to make it real.
Yeah, no, that's powerful. Speaking of right next steps, so what is the best way for people who find themselves just struggling with this, struggling with that? They're well the hell in their 60s. What is their best next step to better understand if your approach is the answer to their quest?
Well, I always say, make an appointment, come see me. It's free. I charge $700 an hour. It's free. It's a $350 half hour session where we get
Okay.
to sit. We get to
Wow.
sit and we just sit and talk. We just talk.
Hmm.
We talk about what's going on with you. We talk about I mean, there's a lot of stuff, and we all have different things. I
Yeah.
always, when I used to be a teacher trainer, I said, teach the person sitting in front of you. And as a coach and a teacher, I still do that.
Mm-hmm.
I work, I can't give you a one size all fits because you're not one size all. Let's face it, we're humans. We are the human race, nothing else, the human race. And
Having
we like
human
flowers.
experience.
And we like flowers. We call flowers flowers, right? We don't separate them into different kind. They're flowers, right? Flowers come in multiple shapes, sizes, smells, colors. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful.
Still flowers.
Right. And humans are the same way.
Hmm.
And we all are. And just because we're over 60, big freaking deal. We're living to 100 for Pete's sake. Think about that. If you're 60, you got 40 years to go. If you're 70, you got 30 years to go. And
Hmm.
these days, I have friends whose parents are living to 106 and 110. Seriously, no joke. My friend, my neighbor, I've been friends with her for 50 years. Last, I think September or something like that. We were sitting in the park outside of our house, and she says, "Oh, you're gonna love this." I said, "What?" She goes, look what my mother did. She likes that social media stuff. I said, really? She goes, yeah, today's her 106th birthday. Her
Wow.
106th birthday. You know what she posted on social media for her 106th birthday? A
I
little mini selfie of her singing and dancing for her 106th.
That's great.
Obviously, she's
Uh,
totally decrepit and falling apart at the same time. So let's
yeah,
face it,
delirious and out of her mind, and can't
we
function.
got we got what, 30,
One
40.
hand selfie, dancing, and gonna post it. It's like
What
that's
we're
amazing.
like, really, let's be honest. So we've got what, 30, 40, 50 years to go,
Yeah,
right?
make it count.
We had bloody careers that were shorter than that.
Oh yeah. Make it count. Make it count in a way
So
that's fun. Tap into the
yes,
fun, tap into the
tap
happy
into
place,
your soul,
tap
tap
into
into your
your,
happy place.
yeah,
Because you know
I love
what? When
that.
you tap into your happy place and you start making decisions, all the decisions become good decisions
Then they become the right
and they
decision.
write the decisions.
Yeah,
So,
I
yeah,
love that,
come see
Judy.
me. Come talk to me. It's
Awesome.
30 minutes. I give it to you free from the bottom of my heart.
Awesome. Look in the show notes and you will find the link to have that session with Judy and change your life. Tap into the life, not the
Yeah.
bucket list.
Let's get you
Awesome.
started back on the road to living again. You know?
Judy, thank you so much for your time, for your energy, for your perspectives, for your inspiration, wisdom. And this has just been such a pleasure. Such a pleasure. Thank you so much for the work you
My
do.
pleasure.
All right. Take care. And I'll probably see you on one of those sessions.
You're more than welcome to.
All right. Bye bye, Judy.
Bye.
All right. Well, the real life transformations facilitated by experts like my guest today are truly priceless. I mean, happiness, joy, peace, love, right? These are all what each of us ultimately strives for in life. But becoming a sought after and well paid coach or energy healer is often challenging, overwhelming, and frustrating. So, if you're a heart centered coach, expert, or energy healer who's striving for more ease, flow, and abundance, well, I've created a special gift just for you. So, check out the show notes. All right, well, this is Wendy Vaughn signing off. Thank you so much for tuning in, and be sure to join me for my next episode where we'll be inspired by yet another impact maker's journey.